Fast-tracked aircraft certification, pushed by Boeing, comes under the spotlight. Washington's safety certification process that put the Boeing 737 MAX in the air is coming under congressional scrutiny in what is shaping up as a test of the aircraft maker's influence in Washington. Boeing Co. and its lobbyists for years pushed to speed up the time it takes to get a new plane certified to fly. Congress and the federal, following the two fatal crashes of Boeing 737 MAX airplanes in Indonesia and Ethiopia, lawmakers are questioning whether a new automated anti-stall system in the aircraft was properly vetted. There are a whole host of questions about the certification of the plane, said House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee Chairman Peter DeFazio D., Oregon. The more I learn, that program left the fox guarding the henhouse, Sr. Richard Blumenthal. In a statement, the FAA said it had been repeatedly directed by Congress to streamline certification, including by delegating some tasks under the OTA program. FAA has never, even after the OTA program was rolled out, Congress bolstered efforts to accelerate the process of getting new planes from factory floors to runways. FAA reauthorized. Democrats including Mr. DeFazio opposed the 2012 bill on a party line vote, although he and other Democrats approved last year's reauthorization. The move to streamline certifications followed years of advocacy by some members of Congress, including Republican Rick Larsen. Mr. Larsen didn't respond to a request for comment. Boeing says continued efforts to improve the certification process, including the OTA program, would help it bring newer, safer jetliners to market more efficiently. The Wall Street Journal reported Friday that federal investigators are looking into whether Boeing provided incomplete or misleading information about the 737 MAX aircraft to U.S. air safety regulators and customers. Boeing said there were no shortcuts in approvals for the 737 MAX, which achieved final FAA certification on March 9, 2017. The 737 MAX was certified in accordance with the identical FAA requirements and processes that have governed certification of all previous new airplanes and derivatives, Boeing said in a statement. The company said in a statement, Boeing defended the practice of delegating some certification tasks to its own employees, saying it was safe and allowed the FAA to focus on reviewing new technologies. Following an extensive qualification process, Boeing employees who are designated representatives of the FAA participate in regular trainings and receive guidance and oversight from the FAA, the company said. Boeing employees. A Senate subcommittee hearing on airline safety is scheduled for Wednesday. Federal lobbying records show that more than 10 of the Boeing's government affairs staff lobbied the FAA last year on the issue of certification as the company worked to bring new airplane models to market. In the past, Boeing has highlighted it as a positive for investor returns. There's a lot of work going on in streamlining certifications that are beneficial frankly both to our commercial and our defense business, Boeing Chief Executive Dennis Muilenburg told investors on an earnings call in February 2018. And we're making those gains in speeding up aircraft certification are now under threat. Since the March 10 crash of an Ethiopian Airlines 737 MAX, which followed the crash of a Lion Air 737 MAX in Indonesia in October, Boeing's government affairs machine has roared to life. Boeing executives, that has included President Trump, whom Mr. Muilenburg called just before Mr. Trump announced that the FAA would ground the 737 MAX, according to Boeing. The company has said Boeing is relying on what one lobbyist called its direct champions on Capitol Hill, members of Congress who hail from the company's manufacturing and corporate power centers in Washington state and Chicago and reliably defend its interests in the Capitol. Boeing has built an army in Washington of more than 30 in-house lobbyists and 16 outside firms to press for its interests across the federal government. The company's $15.1 million in lobbying expenditures in 2018 was the fourth largest total of any individual company, according to filings compiled by the Center for Responsive Politics. Among the company's external lobbyists is Norm Dix, a former Democratic congressman from Washington, where the company has a major presence. Mr. Dix was the company's lobbyists work the halls of Congress seeking to influence everything from the development of future space initiatives to the federal tax code to military procurement policies. The company is known to swarm the White House when foreign leaders visit, the better to press the case for the company's military aircraft and airliners. It was a leading write to Ted Mann at WSJ.com and Siobhan Hughes at WSJ.com.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park,